Right now, a heat dome is parked over the eastern two-thirds of the United States. Over 230 million Americans are experiencing temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat indices hitting 115. The National Weather Service has issued dangerous heat advisories across the region. Your garden is feeling every degree of it. But here is what nobody is telling you while you scroll through gardening advice trying to save your plants. Some of the most common things gardeners do during a heat wave. The fixes being shared right now across every gardening group and forum are not helping. They are accelerating the damage, 10 of them specifically. And to understand why, you need to know one thing first. Each one feels like the right thing to do. Each one has a logic behind it. If you are gardening in this heat, work before 9 a.m. only. Stay hydrated. Get indoors before peak temperature hours. Now, let us look at what is happening in your garden. Fix 1. Midday misting. You step outside at noon. The thermometer reads 98. Plants drooping. Every instinct says, give them water. So you pull out the hose, set it to mist, and spray the garden down. It feels right. Almost none of that water is reaching the root zone. At 98 degrees, water evaporates before it penetrates more than the top fraction of an inch of soil. The roots, 3, 6, 12 inches down, are receiving almost nothing. But here's the part nobody tells you. That daily misting is training your plants to be weaker. Roots grow toward moisture. If moisture only ever reaches the top 2 inches, that is where the roots go. The top 2 inches of soil hits 130 degrees Fahrenheit in a heat wave. It dries up completely within hours of the last watering. You have built a root system perfectly designed to fail in exactly these conditions. What actually works? Deep, infrequent watering before 9 a.m., 6 inches deep for lettuce and herbs, 12 for tomatoes and peppers, 18 to 24 for squash and beans. A long, slow soak every 1 to 3 days. Not a quick spray twice daily. Pair that with 2 to 4 inches of organic mulch on moist soil. The mulch makes that water last. The misting feels like action. The deep soak is what saves the garden. Fix 2. Black plastic mulch. This one is for every gardener who laid black plastic earlier in the season and has left it in place through the summer. Black plastic is a legitimate tool. In spring, when soil is cool and you need to warm the ground for heat-loving transplants, it works exactly as intended. It absorbs solar radiation and transfers heat into the soil. That is spring. This is a heat wave in July. Under 90-degree temperatures and clear skies, the surface of black plastic mulch reaches 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Research from the University of Delaware confirmed this. Stems near the mulch surface are damaged and crop losses follow. 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not a warm soil. That is a cooking surface. Root damage begins at 104 degrees. Roots die above 110. Your black plastic is concentrating and directing heat directly into the zone where your plant's entire water and nutrient uptake system lives, and you cannot see it happening. The surface looks fine. The damage is underground, invisible, cumulative. By the time the plant shows the full extent of it, the root system is already gone. What actually works? Cover it. A layer of straw or shredded leaves over the black plastic creates an insulating buffer. White or reflective mulch reduces bed temperature by up to 20 degrees Fahrenheit versus black plastic. or remove it entirely. Bare soil in direct sun hits 130 degrees. Mulched soil stays in the 80s. Black plastic has a season. That season is over. Cover it or remove it today. Fix 3. Pruning the damage. Brown edges, scorched tips, drooping leaves. Every instinct says, cut it off. Help the plant focus on what is still healthy. Do not do this. Those damaged leaves are providing shade. When you remove them, 2 things happen. The tissue they were shading, inner leaves, stems, developing fruit, is suddenly in direct sun it has never seen before. That causes immediate sunburn on tissue that was perfectly healthy 5 minutes ago. Then the plant responds to the cut by pushing new growth. New growth is the most fragile thing in your garden during a heat wave. Thin leaves, undeveloped cells, no heat tolerance. It burns before it even has a chance to establish. 1 cut, 2 problems, on a plant already fighting for its life. What actually works? Leave it. The garden looks rough. That is fine. 1 exception, dead flowers. Remove them. They stop the plant wasting energy on seed production. Everything else, however damaged it looks, stays on the plant until the heat wave passes. Fix 4. Fertilizing the stressed plant. The logic feels sound. The plants look depleted. You have been feeding them all season. They are struggling, and you want to give them something to fight back with. So you reach for the fertilizer. Fertilizer works when a plant is actively growing, when its biological machinery is running at sufficient capacity to absorb nutrients and convert them into growth. During a heat wave, that machinery has shut down. Photosynthesis slows dramatically above 95 degrees. The stomata close to prevent water loss. Research published in PMC confirms that heat stress disrupts the enzymes responsible for nitrogen metabolism. The plant cannot process what you are giving it, so the fertilizer sits in the soil unused. But mineral fertilizers are salts. Unused, they accumulate in the soil solution and begin drawing moisture away from the surrounding soil and away from the roots. You meant to feed it. You dehydrated it instead. When the plant is not growing, do not feed it. Feeding a plant in survival mode does not accelerate recovery. It accelerates damage. Wait until the heat wave passes. Wait until you see new growth pushing from the stems. That is the plant telling you its machinery is running again. That is when fertilizer works. What actually works? Nothing. Right now your job is not to grow the plant. It is to keep it alive. Water, shade, leave it alone. It cannot reward you for nitrogen it cannot absorb. Fix 5. Planting new seedlings during a heat wave. This is the one that breaks gardeners' hearts. Because the seedlings were fine. You grew them carefully or bought them from a good nursery. You prepared the bed. You watered it. You planted them in the evening thinking you were giving them a head start. Within 48 hours, they are dead. Not wilting, dead. Transplanting is one of the most stressful events in a plant's life under normal conditions. The roots are disturbed. The hydraulic system that moves water from soil into stems and leaves is disrupted. Even when you are careful, a newly transplanted seedling is running at reduced capacity for the first 1 to 2 weeks, while it reestablishes root contact with the soil. During that window, it needs one thing above everything else: stable conditions. A heat wave is the opposite of stable conditions. And now, on top of all of that, the soil around it is already hot enough to destroy the very roots it just spent 2 weeks trying to rebuild. It is not one emergency. It is two emergencies running at the same time on a plant that has no reserves to draw on. The seedling stops growing. Within days, the leaves whiten and brown. In a heat wave, that process does not take days. It takes hours. And here is what makes this one hurt most. Those seedlings did not have to die. An established plant, deep roots, existing soil contact, can survive the same temperatures that killed your new transplant. The heat wave was not the enemy. The timing was what actually works. Wait, losing the seedlings costs you the entire planting. If you absolutely cannot wait, plant in the evening. Soak the bed 2 hours before planting. Water each seedling in immediately after. Apply mulch around the base. Provide shade for the first 5 to 7 days while roots establish. That gives them a chance, not a guarantee, a chance. The garden will still be there when the heat breaks. Plant then. Pause here. 5 fixes down. Every one of them felt like care. Every one of them made it worse. There are 5 more. And fix 10, the last one, is the one most gardeners never see coming. Because the instinct behind it is so automatic, so immediate, that almost nobody stops to question it. And by the time they do, the plant is already gone. Subscribe before we go further. Hit the bell. Stay with me. Fix 6, evening watering. The logic is sound. Water in the cool of the evening. Avoid the midday heat. Give the soil all night to absorb it. Here's what is actually happening. Water sitting on leaves overnight is not a kindness. It is an invitation. Fungal pathogens, powdery mildew, blight, botrytis, need 2 things to establish: moisture and time. Evening watering gives them both. The leaves stay wet for 8 hours in warm, still air. By morning, the infection is already in progress. The second problem is the soil itself. Evening-watered soil does not stay cool overnight. It warms again by mid-morning. The roots get a few hours of relief and then face the same afternoon temperatures, except now the surface is damp, which raises humidity around the crown of the plant and creates exactly the conditions fungal disease favors. What actually works? Before 9 a.m., only before 9 a.m., the soil absorbs the water during the coolest part of the day. The leaves dry quickly in the morning air. The roots have moisture available through peak afternoon heat. Evening watering feels considerate. Morning watering is what the plant actually needs. Fix 7. Hoeing. It looks like care. The soil is baked hard between the rows. You reach for the hoe, break up the crust, loosen the surface, help the next watering penetrate. Stop. That crust is not compaction. It is a capillary seal. Soil water moves upward through a network of tiny connected channels. When the surface crust forms naturally, it slows that upward movement, keeping moisture in the deeper layers where roots can reach it. Break the crust open and you destroy that network. The deeper moisture now has a direct path to the surface. It evaporates. There is a second problem, the feeder roots. The fine hair-like roots responsible for most of your plant's water and nutrient uptake sit in the top 6 inches of soil. A hoe moving through that zone during a heat wave does not just disturb soil. It severs roots the plant cannot afford to lose right now. What actually works? Leave the surface alone. If water is pooling rather than penetrating, the answer is a slow, long soak, not cultivation. The hoe stays in the shed until the heat wave breaks. Fix 8. Containers. Your garden bed plants are surrounded by earth acting as insulation. Thousands of pounds of earth absorbing heat, slowly releasing it slowly. A buffer that smooths out temperature extremes. Your container has none of that. Unlike a garden bed, a container holds only what fits inside it. A small, confined volume of soil with no surrounding earth. The walls conduct heat straight through from the outside air and from whatever surface the pot is sitting on. The small volume of soil swings from cool to dangerous and back within hours, not days. There is a second problem specific to containers. When a pot dries out completely in extreme heat, the growing medium shrinks away from the walls. The next time you water, the water runs straight down that gap between the soil and the pot and out the drainage hole, without ever reaching the root ball sitting in the center. The plant looks watered, the roots are still dry. What actually works? Move containers into afternoon shade before noon. If they cannot be moved, insulate the outside of the pot. Hessian, bubble wrap, a damp cloth wrapped around the sides. Water slowly, enough that water runs from the drainage hole and the soil rehydrates fully rather than channels straight through. Elevate pots off paved surfaces. Containers need more management in a heat wave, not the same management. More. Fix 9. Full sun. Tomatoes need full sun. Peppers need full sun. The label said it. Every growing guide confirmed it. So you leave them exposed because that is what they are supposed to need. Here is what is actually happening while you leave them there. Above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, tomato and pepper flowers drop. Not from disease, not from deficiency, but because the plant stops producing what it cannot sustain. No flowers means no fruit. The crop you have been building since March is disappearing, blossom by blossom, in a garden that looks otherwise fine. For the fruit already set, direct sun at extreme temperatures causes scald. The surface cells of the fruit die, leaving white or silver patches that do not recover. The fruit beneath the damaged skin often rots from the inside, while the exterior still looks attached and growing, and even if the flowers hold, the pollen does not. Above 95 degrees, tomato pollen loses viability. The flower opens, the bee visits, and nothing takes. You get the flower without the fruit. What actually works? Shade cloth at 30 to 40% density over the fruiting canopy from noon to 4 p.m. Not all day. Morning sun is still valuable. Afternoon sun above 95 degrees is actively costing you fruit. Oregon State University Extension confirms it directly. Shade provision during extreme heat events does not meaningfully reduce seasonal yield. The fruit that sets under afternoon shade outproduces the plant that aborted its flowers without it. Fix 10. Reaching for the hose. You see the plant drooping. You water it. Within an hour it looks the same, so you water it again. By the end of the day, you have given it 3 times what it normally receives, and it is still wilting. Here is what is happening. Too much water in a short period displaces the oxygen in the root zone. Without oxygen, root cells begin to die. Dying roots cannot absorb water, so the plant wilts from root failure, not drought. And because the symptom looks identical to drought wilt, the instinct is to water again. There is a simple diagnostic that breaks this cycle. Watch the plant at dusk. A plant wilting from heat stress will recover visibly as evening temperatures drop. Without any additional watering, it droops by noon and stands back up by 7 p.m. That recovery is the plant telling you it has water. It just cannot move it in the afternoon heat. A plant wilting from genuine drought does not recover at dusk. It stays down. What actually works? Before you reach for the hose, wait for evening. If the plant recovers on its own, it does not need water. It needs the temperature to drop. If it stays wilted at dusk, water it then deeply at the base. One observation, 30 seconds. The difference between a plant that survives the heat wave and one that drowns in it. 10 fixes. 10 things that felt like care, every one of them asking more from a plant that needed less. The garden does not need more from you right now. It needs less. That is the hardest thing for a gardener to accept, and the only thing that works. There is a particular frustration that comes from doing everything you know how to do and watching the thing you care about still struggle. Gardeners are people who act, who tend, who intervene. But the plants, if they could speak, would say the same thing every time. Stop. Get us through this. The heat dome will move on. It always does. Mulch, morning water, shade, patience. I'm Elias Ford. This is The Honest Root. See you in the next one.